Hello and welcome back to Homebrew Review, where I analyze your homebrew and see whether or not it's balanced or it's broken. The homebrew subclass we'll be reviewing is the Oath of Exsanguination by the One of Many. And by the end of this video, you'll see a stacked spell list, insane damage, a broken Necromancy ability, and a beautifully crafted level 20 feature. Before we get into that, let's start from the beginning. The Oath of Exsanguination is all about using blood and necromancy to fight against evil. They focus on sacrificing their short-term health for a better long-term future. And according to its lore, it's an oath believed to be made by DMPers thanks to their use of humanmancy and necromancy. But do the tenets of this oath reflect these same principles? Let's check. These paladins share the following tenets: bleed so others have peace, be efficient in your methods to fight evil as they have lost the right of honor and mercy on the battlefield, the ends always justify the means, and be the greater good for those who will come next. Now these are some great tenets, and I'm excited to see how thematically these develop over the course of the subclass. But do you remember that stacked spell list I was talking about earlier? Well, here it is. We got Cure Wounds and Hex at 3rd level, Spiritual Weapon and Hold Person at 5th level, Beacon of Hope and Bestow Curse at 9th level, Divination and Death Ward at 13th level, and Mass Cure Wounds and Contagion at 17th level. Now, I do think a lot of these spells are good for combat, and I think it shows the brutal nature of the Oath. But the choice of the 3rd and 5th levels is pretty strong, with the caveat that everything above 9th is pretty chill. For comparison, let's look at the Paladin spell list from the Oath of Conquest and the Oath of Vengeance. Two subclasses that I'd argue are pretty combat oriented. Oath of Vengeance gets Hunter's Mark for damage, Bane for debuff, Hold Person for paralysis, but it gets utility in Misty Step. Oath of Conquest on the other hand has Arm of Agathis for defense, Command for control, and the same Hold Person and Spiritual Weapon choices as the spell list. But do you see what I mean? I feel like there needs to be at least one spell in these four that's given for utility. I would recommend something like Detect Evil and Good, or maybe Protection from Evil and Good. But other than those four, I think the spell list is pretty good, and I think it hits what a Oath of Exsanguination Paladin would have. Now if you want to see some insane damage for a 3rd level Paladin, look no further than the next feature, Blood Rites. Immediately after you take the attack action, you can expend one use of your Channel Divinity and invoke one of the following effects. Extract Blood. You replace one of your attacks with an invocation of a Blood Rite. Each creature you deem as enemies in a 15-foot cone must make a Constitution saving throw equal to your spell save DC. On a failed save, the creature takes 2d necrotic damage, and on a successful save, it takes half as much damage. You recover a number of hit points equal to the damage dealt, or heal an ally on site by the same number. This damage increases by 1d8 when you reach level 7 and 15 in Paladin. This is essentially the 1st level spell Frostfingers from Icewind Dale, but with a unique twist that you can recover hit points equal to the damage dealt. But this isn't the damage I'm talking about. We'll see that in the next Channel Divinity, Septemic Smite. Your weapon gets imbued with a Bloodborne Curse, causing your strike to roll damage as if you cast a Divine Smite with your highest available spell slot on it. If the attack hits, the target must make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, it will be under the effects of the Bane spell for 1 minute without requiring concentration. You can use Septemic Smite without spending a Channel Divinity, but if you do so, you take the same damage the Smite deals. Phew! Now that was a lot to unpack in 2 Channel Divinities. But before I get into that, I do want to say the flavoring on both of these is really good. I really enjoy it. The flavor of sucking out someone's blood to heal or giving someone a blood disease is pretty interesting, so props on that. But I have 6 notes on the Blood Rites, with one of them being damage. But first, let's talk about how this Channel Divinity is set up. Because the Channel Divinity is triggered after you take the attack action, but not before you hit, there's a chance you'll miss. I personally think this is bad design, because on one end, you have a player that will whiff 2 Channel Divinities, which would completely suck for the player, and on the other end, you have another player that would hit with Channel Divinities and deal a grotesque amount of damage. So my recommendation here is to have the Channel Divinity activate after the player hits another creature, and then just lower the damage or provide an alternate effect. Speaking of alternate effects, this leads to my 2nd and 3rd notes for this Channel Divinity, which is Healing and Bane. I think the healing here is right. It's definitely stronger than other Paladin subclasses because it's healing actual hit points rather than just giving temporary hit points. The closest feature I could find is the Oath of Glory's Inspiring Smite that grants temporary hit points equal to 2d8 plus your Paladin level. But the healing isn't going to break the game, it's just something to look for during playtesting. As for Bane, I personally don't think tossing in Bane with no concentration is the angle, especially because I think the possible effects from blood related things could be incredibly interesting. You can make it so creatures can't heal. You could slow a creature, you could bloodbend them around, you could even bloodbend to restrain them. I feel like Bane is a patch on answer, and I think there's so much more design space to be explored. My 4th note is about sacrificing your hit points for Septemic Smite. I'm not a huge fan, to be honest. I don't think it's game breaking, but the use case is weird and limited. Generally, you'd want to use this for Divine Smite and a possible free Bane, but I just don't see the vision mechanically. you'd want to roll low damage in general, and at higher levels it becomes more and more of a risk as the damage increases. And while there is a lot of healing in the subclass that will help bandage the wounds from this, I think you would rather spend that on reviving your allies or healing yourself in a dire need than just recklessly using it for Septemic Smite again. But enough of that, my fifth note is about flavor. Please add in more flavor text. I see the vision of the subclass, I just would love to have a more clearer image of it. And last but not least, my sixth note, damage. No Paladin Channel Divinity deals damage. A lot of them help in combat, like the Oath of Vengeance granting you advantage on attack rolls, or the Oath of Conquest giving a +10 to hit, but none, and I mean none, deal damage. I did some paper napkin math for Septemic Smite, and the damage is high. When you attack, you can choose to do Septemic Smite and then combine that with a Divine Smite. So the damage would be 1d8 +3, this is for a weapon and a modifier, plus 2d8 from Divine Smite, and another 2d8 from Septemic Smite, equaling out to an average of 25.5 and a max damage of 43. In comparison, a regular Paladin is dealing an average of 16.5 and a max of 27. This damage gap will only get worse at 5th level, where you could do Septemic Smite twice per turn. This is what I meant earlier in my first note with the potential risk reward of missing in higher damage. It's just so much damage. Now looking at Bloodright from a bird's eye view, I love the flavor, I love the Channel Divinity presented us. They're both just a bit too strong, but the flavor is there, the effects are there, just a little bit more juice, a little bit more squeeze. I'd recommend changing one of these Channel Divinities into a more utility option. A lot of Channel Divinities will have one feature that helps in combat and one feature that's more utility or control based. For example, the Oath of Conquest utility / control option is to frighten, and its combat option is a +10 to hit. For an oath that isn't so combat oriented, the Oath of Glory is a great example. It grants temporary hit points to allies as a combat option, and advantage on strength and dexterity saving throws as a utility option. I think my personal ideal is the Channel Divinity's trigger on a hit, you keep Septemic Smite but remove the damage, and replace Bane with a different effect. And keep Extract Blood since it can't be abused by a Divine Smite combo. But as much as I rag, I think this is a super cool feature and I'm very excited to see how it develops over time. Also, if you've been enjoying the video, like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to see your homebrew review, send it to me via the link in any of the descriptions below. Now let's move on to a feature that can make your encounters null and void with the aura of Necromancy. When an ally who is bloodied within your aura of protection regains HP from a spell, they gain a bonus to the total HP regained equal to your charisma modifier. Additionally, when a bloodied enemy within your aura of protection makes a saving throw against one of your paladin spells, you can take a reaction to impose disadvantage on the save. Now, I really like the imagery here. I think it was super clever mechanically to put these features behind the bloodied condition, because it makes it feel like if a creature's bloodied, then they're healing quicker, or maybe their blood is getting more sickly, but the flavor isn't totally here. Similar to the blood rights, adding some flavor text would increase the imagery and vibe of the feature by a mile. But why did I say this feature could make your encounters null and void? Well, it's not the healing portion, which is pretty solid and reminds me a lot of Life Cleric. It's the second portion, where as a reaction you can give disadvantage on a saving throw against your paladin spell. Now this is weirdly worded because it's either paladin spells that I, the player, am casting, or it's saying paladin spells in general. If it's the former, then you're spamming Hold Person. This combined with the 1d4 from Bane means that any enemy within your aura can get paralyzed so easily. If it's not only spells that you or the player are casting, then you can have a spellcaster cast Command or Hold Person from afar, and if an enemy is in your aura, you can give them disadvantage on the save, meaning you wouldn't have to use your action to cast Hold Person or Command. But Kieran, what about the fact that the enemy needs to be bloodied? Does that mean that their feature could be a little bit stronger since there's such niche conditions to be met? Well, the fact that it needs to be bloodied in the first place is a little metagaming. And the reason why is because in order for you to know if the creature is bloodied, the DM needs to tell you, which is a bit annoying for the DM if they want to increase the health or even lower the health of the monster. It essentially forces the DM to tell you how healthy the creature is at all times in order for your feature to work. In summary, I'm a big fan of the healing, but not a big fan of the disadvantage on saving throws, especially because the only conditions are the bloody condition and the range. I think I just keep the healing buff and call it that. I could even see a world in which you increase the healing, or maybe give allies AC, or maybe even advantage on Constitution saving throw. But the second portion is just a bit too strong. Speaking of strong, if so many minutes ago you remembered that promise I made to you about the Necromancer, well, here it is, at level 15 with Bloodbound Thrall. When a creature is killed within 5 feet of you, or you find a corpse that is still warm, you can take a magical action to reduce your total hit points by 4d10 until you finish a long rest, to make a charisma saving throw equal to 8+ your creature's CR plus your proficiency bonus. On a success, their creature's soul is bound to you, following the effects of the Find Greater Steed spell, but using his statistics instead of the options provided by the spell, and to resummon it, you need to reduce your total hit points by the same amount as when you enthrall him. Lore-wise, this is pretty cool because it's calling on the Necromancy lore part that we saw earlier in the thematic description. I also think it's cool just to resummon things back from the dead, but this feature does have both a flavor and a mechanical problem. Flavor-wise, having Necromancy here is essentially saying like, hey, this is a Blood and Necromancy Paladin, where I personally think the two archetypes should be split and separate. On the mechanical side, it's also weirder. You need to clarify what you mean by statistics, because what statistics? Are we talking about the whole stat block? Are we talking about the 6 main stats? Are we talking about the attacks or traits? I need more information, and because of that, it's hard to give advice. If the feature is just replacing its health and 6 primary stats for one of the Find Greater Steed options, then it's okay. In fact, you could probably remove the damage and saving throw restrictions. But if we're talking about making a full creature a steed, that's a huge problem. It's a very, very big problem. Even though the saving throw makes it so that you can have a zero creature between 0 and 8, there's nothing beyond perhaps 9 or 10 for that matter, because the saving throw is very difficult. It doesn't ignore the fact that you get a whole extra creature to fight with. This is not even including the fact that lots of creatures have incredible abilities, different traits, different attacks, multi-attack, legendary actions. There's so much to consider. You could get a Hydra, a green salad, or even a young dragon. And while there is an argument because the Oathbreaker does it, the Oathbreaker is in the DMG guide, right? And that means that it's much more used for DMs to create players or NPCs, right? That's why that has such a powerful ability. That ability, the control undead ability from the Oathbreaker is just so strong. The action economy is plummeting as we speak. This is a Sun Gen Wu from solo leveling. Unfortunately, I don't see a world in which this feature exists. Maybe a buffed Raise Dead, or even just getting the Raise Dead spell, but this feature by itself is really strong. It's just too strong. But thankfully, we have the Crimson Saint level 20 feature, which is just a very nicely made feature to end it off. The power in your blood has coated every cell in your body, turning you into a Saint, Messenger, and Executioner. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 10 minutes, or until you end them, no action required. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. You can also restore your use of it by expending a level 5 spell slot, no action required. Execution of Ichor. Your attack rolls with weapons or unarmed strikes now score a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20, or 18 or 20 against bloodied enemies. Nimbus of Greater Good. When an ally within your aura of protection regains HP from a spell, they gain a bonus to the total HP regained equal to your proficiency bonus. Paragon of Red. Whenever you cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can cast it as a bonus action instead. The flavoring is super good here. I love the imagery of just your blood being coated in this magic, and I feel like it's an eternal boost that you're getting stronger and faster. And this is why I asked for more flavor text in the other features, because this one did it just so well. The benefits are also pretty good, although I do have a couple of notes. The Execution of Ichor is essentially just a champion fighter's feature. I like the increased crit range, but if you're looking to deal more damage, I just get it flat at this point. The Nimbus of Greater Good is also pretty chill, just more healing. And the Paragon of Red is also super cool, and while there is like some hold person as a bonus action shenanigans, and it does make the bonus action of the class generally busier, I think it's pretty good. Plus we're at level 20, where almost every mechanical feature is allowed. I mean, it's just level 20 at this point, but the flavor is just awesome. Looking back at this subclass, I honestly think it's pretty good. There are a lot of features that are stronger than average across this whole subclass, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty good. If we just bump down the power a little bit, add in some flavor here and there, add in some more utility options, add a different maybe level 15th feature, I think this is something that I would allow at my table. I think it's pretty good. That being said, I hope you enjoyed today's review, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.